Okay, I hope this is a good angle. Hope you can see everything because I keep getting that weird boxing when I try to do the widescreen video, so I'm trying with the camera at a different angle this time. So I hope you guys can see it. You can probably see the clutter in my background, but that's okay. Today we are making the ultimate clutch. This sample I'm going to show you, I have kind of diverted off of it. My thought was I wanted to make it so you could wear it vertically or horizontally. You still can, but I'm not gonna, if you're using vinyl, it's just kind of hard to measure to get the tabs if you're gonna do it vertical. So I'm gonna skip that step, so ignore this tab. So that doesn't exist anymore, but this is what it is. So it's gonna be like this. So I had actually the plan for this like in December. I did the flapper cell phone bag, which you guys might recall had the pocket on the back like this pocket. So when I was doing that, I was like, oh, you know what? I really need to make one with that on the front as well with the zipper on the top, because the flapper cell phone case has an opening on the top. So you have the zipper background and then there's an opening at the top, not a zipper. It's just open with a flap. So right around the same time that I was doing that and I was starting to work on the files, a sewist came out with a pattern that is very similar to this. And I was like, oh crap. So I'm like, oh, I don't want to release my pattern because then everybody's going to think I'm copying from her. So I put it off and put it off. Well, it's been, you know, what, 9 months. So I think it's been enough time that I can come and do my version of this. And if you want to look in the link below, though, I will link the pattern with the sewing version. I did purchase that pattern and sewed it up afterwards because I felt kind of like obligated. I didn't want her to think I was copying or anything. But anyway, it's a great pattern. And if you're a sewist, much easier to do the pattern on a sewing machine than the embroidery machine, because the embroidery machines are limited to how thick you can get through it. So by all means, feel free to go and purchase that pattern instead of mine. But if you want it in the hoop and you want different sizes, that's what this is. So we're going to do a 5x7, 9x7, which is what I'm testing tonight, the 6x10, 7x11, 8x12, and 8x14. So we're not doing anything smaller than 5x7. It's kind of, it would be kind of pointless here. I might do a little coin pouch without the zipper and just make the little panel so it matches. I'm not sure yet. Anyway, this is the coconut sorbet on this, and obviously this looks backwards because I was doing it. So it has this pocket here and then the pocket above here. This 6x10, this pocket is very narrow to reach into. So if you have a small cell phone, it might fit, but it's the bigger cell phones are not gonna fit. So we're gonna try the 9x7, and that's my goal, is that it'll fit the larger cell phones. So that's all it is. So let's get to it. So I've got all my patterns prepared, and oh, I forgot to mention what makes this ultimate clutch is you got your credit card pockets in here. So this has 6 credit card slots in it. That's hooping 1. If you don't want to do credit card slots, you can skip the hooping 1 and just put regular material for the lining, 2 lining pieces. But then it's not an ultimate clutch. So I have gone ahead and started prepping for hoop 1. Hoop 1, we need credit card slot material and the wings for that. Actually able to get 8 credit card slots on this one. So I've hooped stabilizer, tearaway stabilizer for hoop 1. I've gone ahead and stitched the placement line, and there's 2 tick marks here. In the PDF, you're going to see another centering mark here, but I realized it's not really needed, so skip that. Don't worry about that. Ignore that. So a tick mark here. A tick mark here is to help you center your credit card slot. So you want your credit card slot to go above the placement line by about a 1/2 inch is fine. I said an inch in the instructions, but a 1/2 inch is fine. So fold your long credit card slot in half. I forgot to iron mine. Mine is I'm not able to get to my rotary cutter right now, so I'm having to hand cut everything with scissors. So mine's not exactly evenly cut. So, but it's cut pretty generous. So once you have it, fold it in half, then lay it wrong side down so that you can go ahead and match those tick marks. That way you make sure it's centered, because you want this to be centered nicely, so that as you're doing your credit card pockets, everything stays nice and neat. So, and this actually ends up taking up almost the whole piece on this particular size. So I'm going to go ahead and tape it down, and then we're going to run the bottom of the first card slot, which will be the top card slot. And on my sample I just showed you, I didn't iron that afterwards. I would strongly recommend that you go ahead and iron that before you, and probably even starch it before you add it to your bag. I should have done that. Especially if you're using vinyl, because you really can't iron it afterwards. It's probably going to be a little hard to see because I'm not using a contrasting thread, so I apologize about that. It's a little bit of a contrast. So we have our little placement line right here, and I think you can actually see it because it's a little bit paler. So what we're going to do is fold our fabric against that placement line, and then hold it against a firm surface, and then finger crease it. And if you do this finger crease all along, you're going to have much nicer credit card pockets in the end. Now if you have one of those small little irons and you're set up such that you can use it, you could actually just go ahead and iron this in between each step. So I'm going to tape down each side. I didn't do that. I was trying to live dangerously on the first one, and because I didn't tape it down every step, it was very loosey-goosey. Now we're going to run the step that's going to do our top of our credit card slot, and you'll see it'll dog ear out a little bit at each side. And I started doing that after the first set of credit card slots I did, because I found that it was helped to not pull out the stitches there. And then of course it stitches down in the center, because that's going to help keep your center from not buckling in when you're folding it backwards. All right, so now it's positioned itself to stitch the next one. So if you can see right here and right here, it's a little dog ear, and we're going to fold against that little dog ear. So hopefully I can reuse this tape. I'm using Soft and something. This is from Madeira, so it doesn't work well. But see, you don't want to pull too hard in that center, but that stitch is right there to help that center. So again, we're going to finger crease it. And you see how, because we have that little dog ear on the sides, it helps keep our fabric in place nicely. Right, and then tape it down again. And then you have to navigate your extra material. So you might need to position your file in your hoop differently than I do, because I'm using a Janome. So you might need to rotate it. Your arm is on this side. The reason why I package all my designs up positioned this way is because Janome does not allow you to rotate on the machine. So if you don't have software, you can't rotate the design, and then if it's the wrong size, you really can't do anything. So I actually do digitize everything to work with the Janome. Okay, so again, we got that bottom of our second card slot. So we're going to go ahead and finger crease that, tape it down, see how many times we can get use out of this tape, because this particular tearaway, it pulls a little bit of away each time. Make sure this is totally out of the way. You don't want to accidentally double it over. I just love doing the credit card slots this way. It's a little tedious, but every way is tedious. But this way you don't have to think about it. And every other way that I've done it, when I've done a sewing pattern, it's like measuring, you make little templates to flip in and out. It's just such a struggle. And I just love doing it this way. Now, I know I watched this girl from, I think she's in Australia. Her name Seems Legit on YouTube. And she created a folding panel to do her card slots, which was pretty cool. It makes it much faster. Okay, so we got our dog ears again. So I'm gonna try and do this without actually even taking it off. So I'm gonna fold it back, and again, I'm gonna lightly finger crease this, but I'm on my bed of my machine, so I have something I'm pressing against. So, and then I'm gonna go ahead and get some new tape and tape it down. I use a lot of tape. I'm using Transform Medical tape. I like this tape. The only drawback is it can leave a residue on some of the vinyls, the stickier ones. So what I do is I try to keep it only in the seams on those. Okay, now we're gonna run the credit card slot 3 bottom. And you can see it's already come together. And then we're gonna fold this up and run the top of card 3. And try and keep your edges even. If you're keeping them even as you go up along, then you're gonna have a much better looking pouch. Or I'm sorry, card slots. And I give you generous cutting dimensions. With in the hoop projects, it's better to be a little bit larger than small, because on a sewing machine you can kind of easily adjust your seam allowance if you cut something wrong and just make your overall pouch a little bit smaller. But on in the hoop project, you can't do that. Everything's digitized for a particular measurement, so you can't really adjust anything. Okay, one more fold down. So I think you can see I'll show you the little notches again here. It's the dog ear there and the dog ear there, and we're gonna fold against those. Put this back on here so I'm against a hard surface. And just finger crease. If you don't have fingernails like I do, then get a boning tool or some other type of utensil. But if you don't finger press these down, it just doesn't look as neat when you're all done. Okay, so now this is going to be our last bottom. And then we're going to do one more top. So we have 1, 2, 3, and then we'll have 4. So 4 times 2 is 8. I hope everybody is staying healthy and safe during this pandemic we have going on. I'm in Ohio. Our numbers have been going up, so it's a little concerning. I'm going to fold against that bottom. And we're very strict. We're like at a 1.5, between a 1 and a 5. But if you've been following me for a while, or if you've seen a sneak peek of me in the video, you know I'm obese. So unfortunately, this disease is a little bit harsher on obese people. And even though I'm perfectly healthy, everything else, I'm a little concerned. Okay, so we're gonna do our last top. Need to be around for my son, so we try to be strict. And then we got another vaccine trial starting at Ohio State. So that's really awesome. I've lost track of how many vaccine trials there are around the world, but we have a lot of them going on, and all of them are showing very good promise. So I think by spring we're going to have a multitude of vaccines available for us around the world. All right. So really, we've been doing this for 6 months, so we're almost halfway there, guys. Halfway through this. All right, now we're gonna, oh, darn it, I'm a little bit short again. Yeah, I'm gonna have to redo my cutting instructions. I guesstimated wrong. I'm actually gonna get a little panel, and when I do the, this is gonna get hidden mostly in the bag. When I do the basting stitch, I'm gonna add a little piece on here so I can fix that. So this is what happens when I live test. So I'm gonna go ahead and run this. This is our center stitch. Now we have to be careful here because sometimes when it's coming back this direction, it might bump into these and push them up. So I'm gonna get a little piece of tearaway, a scrap, and just put it here so that it doesn't do that to us. It was okay on my last trial, but I'd hate for us to run into that issue. We're going to go ahead and run the placement line now for our wings. That's just like a 1/4 inch short. So you can go ahead and trim this vine or the material all the way up to the bean stitch here that we just ran, the placement stitch for the wing, because we want to get that extra material out of our seam allowance. So I'm going to use these applique scissors, and I'm going to go ahead and trim it as close to the bean stitch as I can get it. And that's going to reduce about a 1/4 inch of this thickness in our final bag when we put this into our actual bag. Okay. And then we're going to go ahead and lay our wing down, one of our wings, right side facing down. And then we're going to go ahead and lay it right on top of that bean stitch. And again, we're going to tape it down. Try and line it up with your top of your material up here, so everything at the top is even. Then we're going to run a tack down stitch, and then we'll fold it over and do a top stitch. Now the tack down stitch is going to do a double. It's going to go down to the bottom and then come back up, because we want to end at the bottom to go over to the other side of the hoop to do the other wing. If we don't, then it'll get stuck in our credit card slots. And usually you don't even need to remove this from the hoop to hold the wings back. So we're just going to remove the tape and then fold them back, fold the wing back, and finger press it. Remember, when you're finger pressing, always be against a hard surface. Now I'm going to tape it back down just so these corners don't come up. And then it's going to top stitch, and then it'll take us over to this side of the hoop so we can run our placement for the other side. And if you get into a predicament where you think your fabric is going to shift or anything, make sure you have like I actually prefer my purple thing, but I have misplaced it on my messy sewing table here, but make sure you have something handy to do that. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and run the placement for the right wing. So the same thing, we're going to go ahead and run this placement stitch, and then we're going to trim as close to it as we can get, and then we'll lay our fabric down. And then we're almost done with hoop 1. I will try and put a link, I don't know how to, a bookmark in the comments if you want to skip hoop 1 and go straight to the second hooping, if you've done the credit card slots before and you know how to do it. So I did these months ago, and I gave it away for a couple of days, so a lot of people got it for free. And then I did another version that has a zipper at the top. I did not choose that version for this bag since we already have 2 zippers on it, our main body zipper and our other zipper that's on the front. I didn't feel the need to have another zipper, but by all means, if you guys want another zipper on the inside, you should be able to swap out this file with one of the files from the zipper credit card if you already have that. If not, you can purchase it. I'm just being real here. I discounted the price on that greatly. I consider that to be, I don't remember what they call it in retail, but it's basically like a wash. I make it as low as I really can afford to go on it, just to get people in the door to my Etsy shop, and it gets me a little bit more attention. So I think it's only $5 or $6. I had originally planned, okay, now we're going to run the tack down. I'd originally planned on raising the price after the intro period, but I decided that's just going to be my intro to Starfish Designs file, so I keep it on the lower side, but it comes with a lot of sizes, and in fact you don't need to buy both versions. I had come out with the non-zipper version first, and then of course my wonderful testers are like, you know, it'd be really great if this had a zipper at the top too, Kimberly. So that was a few weeks later, so then I came with the zipper version. All right, I'm going to run this, but by all means you can just skip the zipper version and just skip the zipper steps, but you'll just have a little bit higher top in your file. So I just hit the bag with all the credit card things in it right here, and I'm not seeing it now. Okay, well. All right, so we have that done. So now all we're gonna do is do a basting stitch all the way around so that you'll be able to use this to line this up with your clutch. So you'll see it down a little notch there, and then the top, and I just basted it all the way around just to have it hold on a little bit better, but really you just need this top piece here. All right. So we are done with hoop 1, and I'm gonna get my stiletto or my seam ripper here and try and get this little stabilizer out here. Oh, I might not be able to get it very much there. Okay, so hoop 1 is all done. So go ahead and remove the tape. It's a little easier to remove the tape when it's still hooped. There's that tension in the hoop There we go. All right, I don't know what happened to all my zippers or my credit card slots, but so you'll put you have 1, 2, 3, 4 credit card slots on each side. So I'm going to set this aside, and then I'll tear the tearaway off while we're stitching. All right, now I'm going to hoop poly mesh this time around. This is not fusible. This is just no-show poly mesh. No-show poly mesh. This is from, I'll have to look at. You guys, my favorite things is posted in the group. There's a pin to it. My Facebook page with that. But this is what I like. It's great for in the hoop bags. I'm gonna tighten this down. So I'm gonna go ahead and load my next file, and we're going to go ahead and run the placement steps for the zippers, and then the general placement the placement die line for the overall bag. I'm having trouble speaking today. Oops, I don't know what happened there. Try this again. Maybe I don't want to pick up the bobbin. Yeah. All right, try this again. Sometimes it happens on this machine. I haven't figured it out yet. If you have a Janome 500 East, let me know in the comments. Do you have that issue where on stabilizer it will not pick up the bobbin thread? It's fine if there's material there, but if it's just stabilizer, sometimes it's like it won't pick it. It's like there's not enough depth there. It won't pick it up. So while it's doing that, I'm tearing away the stabilizer from the credit card slots, and I think I did a good job finger pressing them, so I don't feel I need to go and iron it, so I'm not going to. But if you need to iron yours because they didn't get a good job of it, different material is different in how it creases, then go ahead and if you remove the stabilizer, take it over to your iron and give it a good press. Behind the credit card slots too, because I don't want that ball in the bag. There's already going to be enough ball from the materials as it is. If we don't remove the tearaway, that's even more ball. All right, set that aside a minute. Okay, so now we have 2 sets of zipper placement lines. We have our main bag zipper line here, and then our side pocket here. So we're going to start with our regular zipper pocket, or I'm sorry, our top zipper. Now this is digitized so that you can use a number 5 or a 3, which is the dressmaker zipper. You'll see on the sample I did earlier, I used number 5, and you see how, if you look close up, how that looks. But in this one, I'm going to try and use up my number 3 zipper tape. So I have the number 3 stuff on here. So I just added 2 pulls to this zipper tape. And I'm going to cut this so I have about an inch, half an inch on one side, an inch on the other side, somewhere around there. this is from Cam Snaps, and it's really nice. But I've just really gotten big into the more versatile that you get with the other one. So I don't know if I'll go back to the number 3 zipper. The benefit of the number 3 zipper is, the benefit to the number 3 zipper is that it, this got stuck somehow. How did that get stuck in there? That's weird. I haven't had that happen before. Sorry about that, guys. The benefit to the number 3 zipper tape is that the stitching over the zipper is a little bit cleaner. I find in the hoop bags, you don't get as clean of a stitch like you would on a regular sewing machine. So what I like to do is I just like to line up the center of my zipper with my center zipper placement line. Now, other people will just give you a single box for the zipper. I don't do that because not all zippers are exactly 1 inch. And if you're doing the number 5 zipper, it's 1 1/4 inches. So I just line up the center line behind the zipper teeth with my center zipper line, or my center zipper placement line. And if I do that, then I usually can get a really nice straight stitch all the way down my bag. And the reason why you want that is because it makes the reveal how much of the zipper tape you see between your bag and the teeth. It makes it even. Now, one of my testers, she's really fastidious, and she actually does a way where she folds down her material so that it actually goes all the way up to the teeth. It gives it almost an invisible zipper look. It's pretty cool. So sometimes you'll be able to see, if you look at some of the bags, you'll notice that it's not, my file is not digitized that way. That's how she's folding it. I'll show you when we get to that step if I remember. But it's the way she folds it back when she does that, and it's kind of cool looking. I don't show how to do that because it's not the easiest thing to do, so I'm not teaching you how to do that, but you'll notice it in some of the files and the samples. Yes, I've taped both edges down and on one side. Now I'm going to bring in the tape over here and just put a few more pieces on this side as well. We want to hold that down snugly. Now, I'm a big believer in tape because I have seen too many horror stories on the sewing groups and the embroidery groups where somebody reaches to do something, they see it loose, and they get the needle right through their finger. I don't know about you, but my insurance and deductible is high, and I don't want to be in the emergency room with a ring between my finger. Or I mean a needle in my finger. Sorry, I got distracted looking at my file. It looks like I have a weird line. I think that's just the jump string though. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and I had a feeling that it looked like it was kind of messed up. So let me cut this off. What happens is, I love the transport tape, but it can gummy up your needle. So, and when that happens, your thread will start tearing on it. So either get a new needle or, oh wow, this is like really, that wasn't the tape, that was the thread. This thread is kind of not the best quality thread, and it's old. So somehow okay, that's there. Let me clean this out of here. But what you can do is just keep some rubbing alcohol handy and just rub it along your needle, and you'll get that gummy stuff off. So I have, oh, where'd my rubbing alcohol go? Oh, okay, well, we're gonna wing it because I think my son took the rubbing alcohol. The other thing you can do is put some machine oil on it, and it'll make it a little bit less sticky. So let's try this again. So I'm just gonna rub a little machine oil on my needle. Right on the needle. or you can use like sewer's aid, but machine oil works great. I got a little bit too much on there. And it kind of will help lubricate the needle. Did it go? Yeah, it did. It helps lubricate the needle so that it doesn't stick as much. All right, here we go again. And you'll see it made a little notch here. That's our center placement. It's just a tiny little tick. But you'll need that for the last section. When we add the lining to the back. So I'm going to pull this tape off, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my pen, and I'm going to bring that tick up a little bit, just so I can see it better. It's right here. And that's what we'll use to center our credit card slot when we get to that step. It's always when you're doing a video that this stuff happens. Like the thread came undone and I can't get the tape off. All right, I'm not worrying about that one. So now we're gonna go ahead and do the same thing on for the other zipper. I'm going to be very careful here because that did not stitch down well the whole way. I don't want it to come loose. All right. It's going to get stitched down. This is just basically to hold it in place until we get to the panels that go on the bottom. So now we're going to do the same thing with this zipper. So I want to make sure I keep this pole out of the way, and I'm using a zipper tab. So I'm going to make sure my bottom of my zipper only goes to this line, because we're going to put a zipper tab and it's going to cover that up a little bit. Because what I'm trying to do is avoid having that the teeth in the final seam of the bag, and the final bag is going to be around the same area. Now you might want to skip the zipper tab because it does make the seam bulkier. So if you're using a thicker vinyl, then I would recommend not using the zipper tab, and then just sew the zipper down and then the panels. All right. Make use. I don't know why my zipper's getting crooked on me here. Come on, Kimberly. Okay, I'll cut that off when we're done. So I'll try and save as much of that zipper as I can. All right, make sure it's in there tight. Our zipper is all stitched down now. I'm going to remove the extra tape here, and then I'm going to draw the zipper placement line. It's not going to be on every case. It's not going to be depending on the size bag you are, it might actually end up being on the die line, but that's not always going to be the case. It depends how much space I have to work with. So I added a placement line. And you see it just is tacking over there. So then just go ahead and take your material for your zipper tab and lay it down here, and then tape it and then stitch the tack down. And if you're using a thicker vinyl, what you can do actually is take and trim this back even more to about 1/8 of an inch, just to reduce the bulk, and that's where the seam is going to be, because we're going to have the vinyl coming from the back here. And then just fold this over, and it's a little large, it's just easier to make it larger than not. And then we're going to top stitch that, and that just gives us a nice clean finish to the zipper, and you don't have to worry about the tape being in the bag bottom, and it just makes it look nicer than ending into the seam. But by all means, if you don't want to do the zipper tape, then just leave your zipper, I keep calling it zipper tape. If you don't want the tab, then just leave your zipper extended over here. So in that case, you would have had your zipper go all the way down to here, and then leave it on there. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and place our lining for our bottom pocket, and then the front of our machine, of our panel. So we're going to flip this over, and this gets a little confusing. So you want the lining to be right here. So the lining is going to be like this. So in order to facilitate that, you have to have the placement here. It's going to get stitched down, and then it's going to fold over like that. So you're going to place the lining, and you want to make sure that it's about the top of the zipper placement is right here, and your border is going to come here. So you want to have this lining extend past here by just about 1/4 of an inch, and then it's going to be even with your zipper placement line. So okay, again, so it's going to be even with this placement line. So the excess is going to be off the thing, even with this original zipper placement line, 1/4 inch above, and then tape it down. Now, when you're doing the cotton on the front like I'm doing, I added both woven fuse, alternative is SF101, and a piece of Decoville light to my material to give it a little bit more body, so that it matches the body of the vinyl. So I went ahead and pre-ironed my panel placement because I wanted to make sure I'm fussy cutting it, and I wanted to make sure that it was going to get caught in there. So you'll see mine is already stitched. So again, I want my oh, I didn't plan this very well, because I actually need to know where this is going to end. Oh, Kimberly. Okay, I'm going to have to guesstimate this because I didn't do that very well. I should have left a larger border. So I think, oh, actually it looks like it's about 1/4 inch, so it should be good. Yeah, I'll measure it and make sure. So it should be 1/4 inch above the end of the zipper placement line. So my fold should actually end up being right there, and then I kept 1/4 inch out of the seam over here as well. And I'm going to check it after we run this step, and if it's not looking correct, then I might redo it. See, I have this keep calm here. So this is going to be about right to there. I'm actually going to bump it down a little bit more because the border placement is going to come right here. It's going to cut it off. So I'm going to place a little bit. I should have given a little bit more cushion to the top of my placement. So if you're going to fussy cut something like I did, I only left 1/4 inch. Leave an inch for whatever the top is going to be. Okay. Hopefully that'll be okay. All right, so we're going to go ahead and do our tack down stitch, and then we're going to flip this over and do our top stitch. And by keeping that woven fuse out of the seam allowance, it also allows the panel to fold over more nicely. We still haven't pulled our zipper pull down. It's still out of our way. So now we're going to go to the back of our hoop, and we're going to carefully, we don't want to unhoop our project, fold this lining panel over and finger press it down. Okay, and then we're going to flip it back over, and now we're going to do the same thing on the front. We're going to fold this over and finger press it, and then tape it down. And then we're going to top stitch. So I need to undo all this that I had all messed up. Fingers crossed that I do cut it off. I know you guys are going to ask where this material is from. I found it on I don't remember what website, but it was very hard. It's apparently from a while ago, and I got the last from that particular website, and there's no more available, unfortunately. So now we're going to go ahead and flip this over. Now, there's not going to be any lining over here. This is just an empty void right here. So we're going to just put our other piece of lining on top of here. And we're just going to, we won't need to top stitch that because you're not going to be using it. So just line it up so that it's even with this line. And then the side short edge is going to be in line with your zipper placement line right there, and tape it down. And again, make sure if it's going to interrupt with your your hoop attachment, then go ahead and roll it or tape it out of the way. I think we're just perfect on mine. I like to do the corners because they like to come loose when you're stitching if you don't. I'm over here going, this is really hard to do the big hoops on this camera. I'm over here moving this all around. It's going to fall off. Okay. There we go. Now we're going to take our small, I think it's 3" by 6" on this size, and we're going to line this up with the zipper placement line. And again, 1/4 inch above those lines there. And tape it down. And Kimberly's going to be really praying that I have enough here. I might actually skip forward and stitch that stitch just to make sure before we get too far into this, in case I have to redo it, since I didn't measure very well. Okay, so then we're going to do the tack down, and then we'll fold just the front. We'll fold just the front over. The lining doesn't need folded over. Finger press this, keep it against a firm surface. If you don't have fingernails, or the fingernails are not working with the kind of material that you're using, then use a boning tool. All right, and then we're going to go ahead and top stitch this down. And then we'll be able to go ahead and move our zipper pull and trim off our extra zipper tape. This is just going to do a little travel stitch to bring it up here to prepare for doing our border. sorry, another interruption there. I did cut this a little too short.
Can I say something?
Yeah, Grace wants to say something.
Hi guys. Can you tell me when the end so I can maybe say subscribe? Yeah.
He just said hi. So I had to actually edit my file real quick since I cut my panel wrong, or I didn't leave enough opening there. So sorry about that, a little interruption. So we've gone ahead and stitched our we've gone ahead and stitched our bottom section here now. So now we're ready to move our zipper pull and do our top. So you see I had that little carry stitch there. So go ahead and pull your zipper pull down about halfway down, and you can go ahead and trim off your extra zipper tape now, if you didn't already. All right, so I have a whole piece here left for another bag. So now we're gonna go ahead and do our panel for...
Make sure it's super tight.
Okay, we're gonna make sure we put our panel, our little border panel here, and also our lining for our main bag. So we wanna make sure if you have extra material from your bottom lining that it doesn't impede on the where the stitching is gonna be right here for this lining. So if yours is going too high above that, then trim it down. So this is our regular lining, because remember we're going to use our credit card slot for the other side. So what you want to do is lay this lining so that the top of it is along that line. So it's going to be hanging off the hoop, and center it over it. So it should be even with that zipper placement line. And then go ahead and tape it down. Tape, tape, tape. Oops, I just got that loose. And it's gonna hang off the top of your hoop. So again, if your hoop hardware is on this side, then you'll have to make sure you finagle that around. And then we have just our little border strip, and we're gonna lay that also right side down, centered over this, and tape it down. So right side facing down. If it's directional, you would want to lay it like this, make sure it's going the right direction, so in this case that way, and then just flip it up, and then you'll have it in the right direction. And I'm going to tape it down. So since we're using number 3 zipper, it's going to be even with your zipper. But if you were using number 5 zipper, you want that to be even with the zipper placement lines, not the zipper. Then we're going to go ahead and tack that down. All right, and then we're going to turn to the back of the hoop, and we're going to go ahead and make sure there's no tape underneath this section. Oh, I've got 2 pieces there. So we don't want any tape over in this area, but we want to go ahead and fold our lining down. Now you're going to end up moving the lining again when we tack down our border. But for right now, we want to top stitch the lining, and that helps to make the lining lay in the bag better. And you can see here, hold on, I will show you. My lining actually is longer than my hoop, so it would get stuck in my hoop over here. So I'm gonna go ahead and trim that real quick. And you have your original die placement line that gave you the general idea of the whole size of your bag, so you can use that to know how far you can trim. I do sometimes, like I said before, I do try to give you a little bit more generous of cutting instructions, because if you don't lay it down just right, or you get it lopsided like I did, then you might not have enough room. So I'd rather you have it too much. Look at that. It's lopsided, Kimberly. Come on. Oh my goodness. Okay, remove the tape here. And I'm gonna remove this tape I was holding that down with. And make sure you trim the tails out of the way like this. That's gonna not matter because it's gonna get folded underneath, but do that as you go along. And I'm gonna finger press this down or use your boning tool. And now, sometimes with these long pieces of vinyl, you wanna put more than one piece of tape down to hold it down because they kind of fight and they wanna come up. And you don't want it to come up while you're doing the top stitching. Okay, so now we're gonna go ahead and do our top stitching. Okay, now it's in position to do our bottom fold here. So remove this tape. Now we want to turn our lining up on the back because we don't want this border to go in there. And my border is going to be really tight since I had to adjust it. Okay. So I apologize. I forgot to tell you on the first step. But I'll show you in a minute. So I'm going to go ahead and lift this up and pull it out of the way for right now, just while we do the border hem on the bottom. I have tape all over the place here. Okay, so let's hold this out of the way. Okay, so I forgot to tell you guys at the beginning. It's okay, I'm good. So I put a little tick mark right here. That's where you want to fold this piece of vinyl against. So if you want to just extend that out so you can see it on both sides. On this side, this is, all right, extend it out carefully, make sure it stays straight on both sides so that you can see it. Now, what we want to be able to do is fold this under a hem so it's even with that little line that we just made. And in order to do that, I found if you use a ruler like this and you lay it so it's going from one to the other, and this ruler is a little long, but you can do it, and you score the vinyl with a little stiletto. Let me see if I can get this in the screen for you. It'll help it fold. So over here I have it. Over there. It's right on there and I'm right above it. And mine's a little bit short because I had to sneak in here and edit my file because I cut that other one too short. So just do a little score on the top of the vinyl, real light. And you'll be able to feel that score underneath and fold under your hem. Mine wasn't very straight, but, and so you're just gonna fold this under like this and then tape it down. So it should just be right above, or I mean, I'm saying above, it should be right at that placement line that you sewed or that you stitched earlier. Oh my gosh, I shouldn't be doing this light any. This from the very first step that you just drew extended is what I'm trying to say. So this, I'm gonna have to use a lot of tape to hold this down because I'm using vinyl. If you were using cotton, you probably wouldn't need to do this. So I'm just gonna fold this under on that score line. And then I'm gonna kind of audition it and make sure it looks straight to me. And then I'm gonna do the top stitch, which is gonna stitch this down. I'm gonna put this right here. All right, I think it's good. And then I'm gonna hold it up and look at it. It looks a little wonky right there. So let me see if I can get that a little bit better. This side. And I don't want this tape on here for too long because it's gonna potentially leave the adhesive on here. So, all right. And then we're gonna go ahead and top stitch it. My top stitching is probably gonna be very close to the edge because I had to edit my file real quick. So I've gone ahead and taped my border down really well, and we're gonna go ahead and run the tack down or top stitch of that. And that's gonna also close off our bottom pocket. Make sure you don't get your fingers in there like I just did. Make sure you have something handy because mine is a little short because I had to fold it a little bit longer because that panel I cut short. Oops. Okay, you can ignore that carry stitch. That was a remnant left over, an artifact from when I was doing the D-ring over here, and we're not doing that. So I need to fix that. So just ignore that one. All right, I'm going to remove the tape. And one thing you can keep in mind is different tape works on vinyl differently. So if, like this one's fine on this particular parlor paper, but if you have one that's sticky on something, then you can try the blue tape, for example. Or when I first started getting into digitizing or embroidery in general, I used the embroidery perfection tape. It's the pink tape, and I use that a lot. But I found that it tended to leave residue more often than this transport does. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and flip to the back and put our lining back down, and we're going to run the placement steps for our D-ring strap connectors. Oh, come on. Gotta hurry up and get my kid to bed. I should have started this much earlier. All right, let's go ahead and run our D-ring strap connector placements. There's 2 on the side and 2 at the top. So you have a choice of where you put your D-rings. And if you don't want D-ring strap connectors on here, then don't put them on. You just skip this step altogether. Well, you'd skip this one and the next one. So what I do is I take a 3/4 inch piece of vinyl and I put a 1/2 inch piece of Decovil light down the middle to give it extra support. I think the vinyl on its own tends not to be strong enough, and with the wear and tear of carrying a strap and the weight, it's gonna wear the vinyl out. So that's what I do, because my machine does not like to stitch through multiple layers of vinyl. If you're on a sewing machine, you would actually do a 3-inch strip, fold each edge into the center, and then fold it again, and you'd have 4 strips. That's not gonna work on this machine. If you're on a multi-needle, it might, but not on the single needle. So I have my little D-rings here, and I'm gonna get some tape. Now, it's kind of hard to see the D-ring strap connectors, so let me pull it up here and show you. But they are right here and here, and then here and here. I always do the top ones, but Sometimes you might not want to, and you just want to use a lanyard or a wristlet strap instead of a crossbody. So in that case, you might want to just use this here left side one if you are right-handed, the left side one if you are left-handed. So I'm going to go ahead and line this up with this edge, and usually I find on my machine that if I have the hardware top of the D-ring in line with that top stitching, it gives me enough room for my presser foot to get past the D-ring and yet have not too much of the D-ring or the strap hanging above the bag. So depending on your machine, you might be able to get closer to that than I do. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and run the tack down for the D-ring. I'm just going to skip past those first stitches there because I don't need those. On my machine I can do that. And then I'm going to be very careful as it moves between here because my machine likes to move all around and it might hit this D-ring and then it'll get it off kilter. So I'm just going to keep an eye out, and I can actually pull my presser foot up higher. In this case it was okay, but over here it probably will get hung up. If I don't do that. See how it did that? It would have hit that D-ring. And I'm going to go ahead and skip to the next step and finish off that. So we're up to 16. I'm going to carefully remove this tape so it's not stuck in our final bag. All right, now we're getting close to the end here. So what we want to do, y'all, we forgot to remove the stabilizer behind here. Sorry about that. I forgot to tell you to do that. It's in the PDF. It would have been much easier to do before we close this off. Oh, actually, we might still be able to get to it. Let me see, because we haven't stitched down the bottom yet. Let's see. Where's this stuck at? Can we get to it? It's so much easier to do. Ah, we can. All right. Go ahead and, oh, I'm going to pull out these stitches here. These were just those carry stitches that's hanging it up. But you would have done this before you put the lining, this on. Okay. Oh, maybe I can't get to it. It's over here. Let's see. No, I'm not going to be able to get to it, so I'll have to do it afterwards. Yeah, but it's in the PDF. It'll tell you when to do that. We should have already moved to that. Okay. So, but now we are ready to add our credit card slot lining on the back. So I did not get the rest of the tearaway pulled. Let me do that real quick. Especially I want to get it from the bottom seam so it's not stuck in our main bag, which is already going to have enough weight in it. But be very careful because you don't want to pull out your stitching on your credit card slots. I think I'm going to leave it in behind the bottom ones just because it'll give it a little bit more stability for those credit card slots. So I'm going to, well, maybe I can get it out. I don't want to tear my stitching out. And this is not as tearaway friendly as it says it is. Okay, so we have our little tick mark here to center the credit card slot. So we're going to center this with our tick mark that we made earlier, and this line is going to go along the top of the zipper. So there's our tick line we made earlier. So we're going to center that tick with that, and then we're going to run this placement stitching, this basting stitching right along the line there. And then you're going to tape this down really well. Now on your machine, your machine might have trouble having all this extra loosey-goosey stuff on the bottom and might stick somewhere. If it does, just get a piece of tearaway and layer it underneath so that it does not bunch up and mess up your credit card slots. And you want to make sure you line this up really well so that your credit card slots are even. So again, you see there, I have the tick marks matched up, and then I have this going along the top of this zipper. And we're going to tack this down first, and then we're going to fold it up and do the top stitching. So don't feel about having it too well tacked down. Then we need our exterior panel. So get your exterior panel, and you're going to line that up with the top of the zipper placement line as well. In this case, it's the top of our zipper. Just right at the top, and tape it in place. You're not opening up your zipper yet. We're going to tack down this at the top before, that way we don't have to worry about hitting our hole on our zipper. Okay, so go ahead and lay this back in here. Make sure this didn't come loose on the bottom. Make sure your D-rings did not flip up, because that happens to me sometimes. Nope, they're good. And we're gonna go ahead and tack down. Now, if you have not already, I already have a 9014 needle in here. If you have not already switched to 9014 and you're working with vinyl, I highly recommend you do so. All right, now we're gonna flip this over, and we're gonna pull the lining, in this case our credit card slot, fold that back, finger press it, and tape it down. Okay. So I'm finger pressing it, and then tape it back down. And then we're gonna go ahead and top stitch, and by doing this little top stitch right here, it helps keep the lining from bunching up inside the bag. I'm not going to top stitch the back of the bag. If you wanted to do that, you could go ahead and fold this up now and top stitch it. I find when you do that, when you have the D-ring strap connectors in here, it makes them a little bit wonky. If you did the D-ring strap connectors on the side, then you can go ahead and top stitch this. It's the back of the bag, so I don't worry about that top stitching. Okay. But we do another round of stitching through this exterior because one layer is not enough. Or one line, I should say. So this reinforces at the zipper and makes sure that it's not going to come loose on you. Okay, so now we're going to leave the zipper, the card slot pocket open up here. But we are going to go ahead and move our zipper pull over now. So go ahead and I'll pull this over here so you can see. Pull your zipper pull about 3/4 of the way across the bag. If you have a really dangly zipper pull, then tape it in place so it doesn't move around on you. And then just tape it in place and then pull your lining back down. We're going to go ahead and stitch over here and come back up, and then we're going to come over here and stitch from here. So go ahead and make sure you tape this down really well, because if you don't, what can happen, and this happened on my tester actually, I tried something different on my test, my first one, and I had to do the stitch all the way around, but there's a lot of the vinyl has some stretch to it, so when it came back around to this side, it was like this. And I was like, oh, that's not good. So I'm like, go back to your original way of doing it, Kimberly. That's why I like to have mine start up here, because if there's any bunching, it happens down here at the bottom where you can ease it in better at the bottom of the bag versus up at the zipper where you can't really, there's no ease in the top of the zipper because you have the zipper there. I said top of the zipper, I meant the bag. There's no ease at the top of the bag because you have the zipper there. All right, so again, it's going to stitch down And it's going to do I normally do a bean stitch, but in this case I'm going to do a double. So it's going to stitch down here, and you can help guide your vinyl by holding your hemostats or your purple thing, and then it's going to come back up. And this is where you'll want to be careful. Like on my machine, I don't want it to hit my hardware, so as soon as I hear the thread cutter stop, I'm going to lift up my presser foot to my extra height just to make sure it doesn't do anything wonky. All right, and now we're going to go ahead and do the rest of the exterior. And again, we can go ahead and help guide any extra puckering in the bag, any stretching with our little guide sleeves. And now that it's secure, when we do our final lining, it'll be okay if it goes all the way around. Okay, now we're ready to go ahead and turn to the back and remove the stabilizer behind our zipper. What we should have done on the other one. So I like to get my seam ripper because I can see the blade underneath it. And I just carefully pull it. As long as I can see the blade, I know I'm not cutting my fabric. And I can slice down one side, and then I have to hold on to, flip this around. On this side, I need to hold this to hold that tension. So I hold it with my finger. I don't know if you guys can see in this camera right now, but I hold it and then I go like this. And the same thing, I want to be able to see it. And you can have the ball up or the ball down. Generally, you should have the ball down, but I find when I'm doing this, it's easier if I have the ball up. And then I just get my applique scissors and trim off the ends. I found when I was doing the seam ripper, using the seam ripper to trim off this end, I was cutting it. So I used the applique scissors. So we're all set now to go ahead and fold this final lining down, and we're going to tape it down. Make sure you get the tape up here that you had holding this down, and pull it as tautly as you can, but pull from the, don't pull over here because that's your credit card slots. Pull from the wing, and then go ahead and tape it down. So hold on to the wing side, and then you're going to flip it over, make sure it doesn't come loose, and we're going to do the last step. This is step 19. Now your file will say 20 steps, but we add that 20th step because most machines will try to go back to the center of the hoop when it's all done stitching, and we don't want to do that because it could hit our zipper hole or our D-ring strap connectors, any kind of thing, and that will potentially break a needle or ruin your project. Or both. So the second stitch I have slightly a hair past the first one because that helps take the pressure off the vinyl, and that's just a carry stitch so that we can get all the way up here and start from here and move down. So it's a sewing trick that if you do another seam just inside the seam allowance when you're doing vinyl, it helps to take away from seeing the pull of the thread stitching on the vinyl. Because when you're using cotton, the thread kind of melts into the cotton, but in vinyl, it's vinyl, so you can't do that. Okay, so well done. So before we unhoop, we want to turn to the back and make sure everything's stitched out nicely here, and it did. So I'm going to move my hoop out of the way. At this point, I moved the camera so many times, I don't know if you guys can see me, so I really hope so. I'm going to remove as much tape as I can now. Get this off my hoop. It's much easier to do it when it's in the hoop and there's some tension on it. I learned that trick from Ricky Gardner, String Theory Fabric Art. I usually have a call out to her. She does amazing work, and I might actually do some frivolous sewing for myself because Wizardry hardware, I just did a pre-order for zipper pull that has a cassette. It looks like a cassette tape. And I was like, oh my gosh, wouldn't that be so cute if there's a zipper bag that looks like a cassette tape? And I'm like, I bet Ricky has one of those. So I messaged her, and sure enough, she does. So I'm like, oh, I've got to do that. It would be adorable. So I might do a selfish sew for myself. I don't do very many of those. But sometimes it's fun. And I like to try and promote other artists when I can. I'm actually behind. I used to do 1 month, and I haven't done any recently. All right, put all this tape off. And yes, I use a lot of tape. Okay, tape is a lot cheaper than your emergency room bill for a finger needle in the finger. Now, one of the tricks that I just learned last month when I was testing, and I want to tell you guys, I don't know why I had never realized this before. With vinyl, you can take the seam allowance back to like this 1/4 inch, but it's hard to cut the vinyl at that, 1/8 inch. It's hard to cut the vinyl and then not the cotton. But I realized if you leave the poly mesh on, I usually trim this off first. If you leave it on, you can use the poly mesh to hold back the cotton side, and then you can get your vinyl trimmed a lot more narrow than your cotton side. Well, this side I have cotton and vinyl, so we're going to be careful. Actually, I don't know how I managed that, but I got that lined up almost perfect. So you can start on the sides, or you can do the bottom first. And normally I go ahead and trim out the poly mesh, but I was sharing that excitement with you guys. I totally forgot to trim it, so it's not in the seam allowance. So just go ahead and cut it out as close to the seam as you can. So we don't want that in our seam allowance. These are the Kai 7205. Highly recommend them. They're amazing. Now on the top, we don't want to trim our seam, our strap connectors to the bag, because you want to leave a little bit extra wiggle room on those. So if they start to come loose, there's room there. You can repair it. It just helps offset it. It's like a cantilever effect. When you have that little extra, it helps take the pressure off that seam. But if they're cut short to the seam, then there's a lot of pressure there, and the bag is going to end up tearing. Okay. Now, down here, so first of all, let's trim the vinyl back to our 1/4 inch or 1/8 inch. Because this is actually a long strip I have left over here that I can use for D-ring strap connectors and so forth. So I don't want to waste it all. Okay, so that goes in the scrap bucket. Now on the side where the hole is at, so you see how we have here ends and here ends, we're just going to do a diagonal, an angled off seam, and that helps us to just a little bit, when you leave the tab, we're going to leave the tab at about a 1/2 inch seam allowance. It just makes it easier to close the bag, to give you a little bit more. So I'm going to go ahead and cut around here, and then here up to the tab. And we only need the lining to be longer, so you can go ahead and cut the rest of it off. What am I doing here? There you go. So go ahead and cut the other lining from your other pocket off, and then you only need this to be about a 1/2 inch. Well, it ends up being like, it looks like it's an inch long tab. That's all you need the tab to be. Okay, and then trim this last side. So then I'm going to show you how I do the corners. Okay, so I do not just, I'm going to show you on the vinyl side. I don't cut just like this because there's still a lot of bulk right here that gets stuck in your seam. So I actually taper it like this. And that takes a lot of the bulk out of that seam and allows you to get that a nicer turning point. Now I will say I did not do a rounded edge because the sewn bag that I mentioned earlier has a rounded edge, so I wanted to keep mine slightly different than that one. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and reach in here and turn the bag right side out, and I usually find if you get one of the corners and push that through first, the rest of the bag will come afterwards. And you can use the hemostats here, is very helpful, but this is a little bit bigger enough of a turning hole that I can go ahead and do it. You have a lot of bulk in here because of the credit card slots. And if you do accidentally tear your turning hole, it's not the end of the world because you can fix it with a little hand sewing or some glue. And I glue base my bags closed, but I usually don't glue them closed until I turn it all the way out. So I end up turning it twice because sometimes you will find a mistake on the outside that you didn't catch when it was still in the hoop. And if you've glued your opening closed, then you don't have any way to get back in there and turn it right side out and take it to your sewing machine and fix it. I mean, turn it wrong side out and take it to your sewing machine and fix it. Most of us have sewing machines. Not all of us, but most of us have sewing machines where we could actually go to our machine and do it. We use our embroidery machine to make bags because it's easier for a lot of people. You don't have to worry about the precision of your seams. There's so many benefits to doing it in a hoop bag. There's a lot of drawbacks though, because you can't do the structured bags as much in the hoop, unless you use my flat bottom girl bag. That's the structured bag, and done in the hoop. All right, so I like to push out the corners when I'm inside. I find it makes it easier when you get it to the final outside. And then we're going to reach in and we're going to push our zipper the rest of the way open and turn our bag to the right side out. And I had mine taped down, remember, so I have to untape it. Let's unzip it all the way and then turn it. So when we're going to glue it closed, we're just going to go ahead. I always take the side where the seam is and I run my glue along here. And so you just will fold this down, and I use a lot of clips. So you fold that down like that, run the glue along it, and then put this here, and then use the clips to hold it in place. But I'm gonna wait until I turn it all the way outside. Make sure I didn't mess anything up first. So I have like 20 or 30 bags where I have to turn them out right side out, or wrong side out, and glue them closed. And then we still have to take this stabilizer out of our little pocket in the front because somebody forgot to do that. Hey Grayson, I'm almost done. My son wants to say goodbye to everybody. Now I'm hoping that this size will fit a phone in the front pocket. A larger phone. Grayson, did you want to say goodnight? Okay, so I like to get my hemostats in here and pop that little zipper up over there. Is that white phone sitting over there that you could grab? Lift up the vinyl. I pushed it off to the right side underneath the vinyl. Over there, in the fabrics. To the right, over in that area. He's looking for my other phone. we can test it. It's like this corner here, I like to push down with the hemostats and push the extra material into the seam, and then it'll help it pull open neater. Thank you, Grayson. You want to say goodnight or say anything right now?
Bye, guys.
He forgot to say, please make sure you like the video. Okay, if you liked the video, please hit the like button down there. That'll help get more attention to my videos and designs, and make sure you subscribe. I usually post the videos for the bags sometimes a day before I actually release it.
It's not about how many subscribers and likes you get.
Oh, what's it about then? He says it's not about how many subscribers and likes I get.
It's just making fun videos.
It's making fun videos. So there we go. So we have our credit card slots in there. And then once you glue that, it'll sit in there nicer and neater. Go ahead and close our top. And then let's go ahead and remove the zipper tape and hope that, oh, I still don't think this one's gonna fit. Oh, it might. Okay, so.
You can use my phone if it doesn't fit.
All right, so we're gonna carefully remove the stabilizer since somebody forgot to do that. Would have been much easier to do it when the bag was not finished. Especially since I can't get all the way down there because of the zipper tab. I'll trim the rest of this away with the little scissors later. I just want to get it open so we can see if this phone will fit in this size. This, the iPhone 7 Plus is about the same size as 11.
Oh, Mom.
Do you have your phone out here, Handy?
Yeah, it's okay. But I was going to tell you something. Hold on. So look at me. So I'm finding this like in the middle of the video, they're like this. Look. So their phone's like this, right?
Yeah.
And then they're like, make sure you turn your phone this way and make sure that red subscribe button is good.
Oh, it's a little tight.
Use my
Okay. Well, definitely the little phone will fit in there.
Yeah.
So I'm actually going to make this a tiny bit shorter so that it'll fit. Because I do have a case on here. So it's a little snug. It fits, but it's snug. And plus we have that little socket on the end. But there you go. So I'm actually gonna, I'll bring this seam up a tiny little bit to give it a little bit more room. But how cute is that? All right, guys, that's it. I hope you like this video. I hope you like this bag, Ultimate Clutch. And we'll catch you on the next one.
Can they see me right here?
No, they can't see you right here. We're done, Grayson. Thank you. Good night.
Make sure you guys subscribe and turn on the notification bell